When attempting to track your weight, one of the main issues that I've faced, and I've seen other people face it as well, is dealing with the amount of fluctuation that can happen in your daily measurements. What can happen is there can be so much fluctuation. You can jump between, in my experience, 2 to 3, even maybe like 4 to 5 pounds in a single 24-hour time period without really eating too much differently, or even like losing 3, 4, 5 pounds without eating too much less than what you normally do. So something that I found to be really kind of key to tracking at a rate that I find tolerable and not too slow, not too fast, and it really lets me key into things is by tracking daily weight. So I'm going to get into how you can also track your daily weight. And then I'm going to end the video with a couple more of my thoughts about tracking and versus calorie counting, and how you can kind of skip out on calorie counting a little bit if you can, track your weight well. So we'll get to that at the end of the video. Let's start off with, what my current daily template looks like. So here I have all of my weights, and I track every day. I know, not everybody tracks every day, and for the system, you don't have to track every day, but I track every day, and it goes all the way back to March, right? Here's the data from March where I started entering, and you can see in this list right here in the B column, this is my weight every day, daily weight, daily D weight, LB's weight. So with that in mind, so you just kind of enter your weight every day, and then you enter the date. Well, let me speak again. You don't have to enter every day. But what will happen is you will enter this daily weight. The way I've set up this spreadsheet, and the key to this is I'm going to make this spreadsheet or a template for it available and download in the link. If you want to skip all this and just jump right to that, go ahead. So I'm going to be putting a link where you can also follow this spreadsheet, and it kind of automates itself. I've set it up so that you don't really have to think about it too much. You just kind of have to set it and forget it a little bit. So what'll happen is every day when you do your weights, let's say I did my weigh-in today in the morning. Every day I do it at the same time. You go in, you put in the day, and then you put in the weight, and then the spreadsheet will fill out the rest of the info for you. So let's just give tomorrow as a potential example, right? So let's say I put in for tomorrow, October 17th. Today is October 16th. And then for the weight, let's say I just remain the same weight as yesterday. Let me do it again just so you can get the real visual effect. So when you enter in your weight, let's say it's the same as last time. What'll happen, you press enter, and all of these values for your dailies and your averages over time will just update here in the list. I gotta clean up that one a little bit right there. Yeah, so as you can see, we have, what I do personally, I find this to be the sort of, it's a bit overly comprehensive maybe, but I find it to be each category to be kind of helpful. I do a 4-day average, I do a 7-day average, 14-day average, 28-day average, 42-day average, and a 56-day average, which this is roughly 2 months. It's I think it's 8 weeks, and then this is 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, and then a little over half a week for the first one. I don't like to do 3 days. 4 days is fine. So, but this is how it works, and then you can see over the last 4 days, I would have lost, a pound and a half compared to where I was at 4 days previously. I guess that would be this number, right? Yeah, and then this is the 4-day average from those 4 days, right? And then you kind of get a comparison of averages to averages, right? And that really helps kind of smooth the curve in understanding where you're going, and kind of like ignore a lot of the noise that can happen. So this row, you can see the 4-day average. This is just the average of the last 4 days. And then you can see in this row is how much weight change is happening per week. So let's go to the 7-day average because it makes it a little bit easier to understand. So my 7-day average is, it's 166.6, right? And then if I compare it to the average from 7 days ago, it'll be, I think that works out to this one, 167.88. That difference is then sort of divided by the number of days in difference. In this case, it's kind of a 1-to-1 because it's 7 days away. So in this case, I'm losing about 100 in, sorry, not, I'm losing a pound, 1.28 pounds per week at this pace, right? Same applies for this row, right? It says 4-day average per week, but what that means essentially is that at the pace at which I am changing weight in these 4 days, it'll equal out to 1.47 pounds per week. So you kind of get like a direct 1-to-1 comparison, like between each of the rows. Like you can say, okay, over the span of the last 7 days, I've been losing weight at approximately 1.28 pounds per week. But over my 14-day average, it's been slower. I've been losing weight at 0.75 pounds per week, right? It's still a per week. These are both still per week. It's just over the last week, it's been 1.28, and over the last 2 weeks, it's been 0.75 pounds per week, right? So keep that per week kind of idea in mind when you're looking at these graphs. Lastly is the percent change per week. And what this attempts to do is it attempts to do essentially the same thing of comparing your weight from week to the last week, but it also considers a percent change. So in the case of this one here, I would have lost 0.76% of my total body weight relative to 7 days ago. And then for the 14-day average, it would be 0.44 pounds it lost per week, right? So you got to kind of think about it, and everything is a per week, right? So over 1 week, I lost 0.76% of my body fat in per week, and then over 2 weeks, I lost 0.44% of my body weight per week. I think I said body fat before, body weight. I lost 0.44 pounds. I'm gonna get this right. 0.44 percentage of my body weight per week over those 2 weeks. You can kind of suss that out by yourself and get the logic right. If there's any questions, just don't be afraid to ask in the comments. Okay, let's get to the graphs. So these graphs, I've got 3 graphs, and I don't know what happened to my. Oh yeah, they're there. So I've got the percent weight change per week. I've got the average weight. I've got another average weight which considers numbers that aren't hidden. So I'll just show you what that means. So normally I don't have every value showing. I will, instead kind of hide everything up to let's say the last month or so, which would be about here, right? So I could go here, select all of these rows, and then go to hide rows 3 through 151, and that kind of helps me to clear up the graphs a little bit. I get a more kind of concise picture of my weight change over the last 24 days. You can see it's been going up and down a bit, but we're kind of at the trough now. So and then if you just want to look at weight as opposed to weight and percentage change, that's what this graph is for. And then this is my total loss over time. So this goes all the way back to March, right? This graph in particular ignores when you hide values. This one will ignore the hidden values. This one will consider the hidden values. And you can sort of see it's more of a long-term. It considers mostly the longer day averages. So you can see that even in the case of 7-day averages, there's a lot of noise, right? It goes up and down, but with these more, these longer averages, you can kind of ignore the noise and see that, yes, I'm still losing weight on average. I'm still even if this week I went up, the last 3 weeks I went down. So it's all coming out in the wash a bit. And that's the key thing is, for this whole process is recognizing how much of this just comes out in the wash, and you just gotta give it time. So one last thing I want to cover is what happens at the beginning of this. So as you can kind of see at the start, when you don't have enough data to fill it out, you're going to get these error messages like I need more data, I need more data. And it just give it more time, just enter more data, and then it'll fill out as it needs to. It'll come up with stuff, and if it's struggling to find data, it'll give you this message. But just that's the key to this thing is you got to give it enough data for it to work properly. Otherwise, the averages don't make any sense, and it doesn't know how to calculate stuff. So consistency is I'm not going to say king, but just every other day to every 3 days is probably maybe a minimum. I mean, I haven't really messed with it. I track every day, so your mileage may vary here. All right, so before we get into my last couple thoughts, I want to go into specifically what it will be like when you enter it for the first time. So let's go to what the template will actually be like for you. So when you download the template from the description of this video, or I'll try to pin it in the comments as well, what you'll be granted with is you'll be granted with this kind of empty screen where there's nothing, right? And it'll kind of be on you to enter. You'll also see these graphs over here, though. You'll have the graphs, and I've never seen that before, but you'll see stuff like this. So let's say it's today, and it's 10/16/2024. I recommend putting it in the date format so that Google Sheets recognizes it as a date, and then put in your weight. Let's say you're 180 pounds. You can change this to kilograms if you want. You don't need to follow pounds necessarily. I do just because it's easier, right? And then you'll be immediately granted with this process where you'll see need more data, which is fine, right? And then the graphs will not be filled out. But then let's go through. Let's say you do it for a few days, right? Let's do 17/2024, and then let's say you lose a respectable amount of weight. Go down to 179.6, right? Which you're happy about if you're in this game for a while. So you'll see, still need more data. Graphs are not too helpful. Then let's keep going. I'm gonna kind of just drag in. Say you do it for you keep losing that good. Let's say you lose 2/5 of a pound every day, right? You'll see that this is coming through, right? You'll see that just keep pulling. You just got to keep going. Let me see. Wait, why isn't it? All right. Come on, there you go. Yeah, and then eventually you'll get to the point where you're you're looking good, and everything's kind of following that 0.28 per week, which works out, right? Because that's exactly what's happening, losing 2.8 pounds per week here. So yeah, and then over time, this is what it'll look like for you. So yeah, definitely check out the link in the download. And yeah, the graphs are a little bit imperfect, so I may adjust those in the template so it's a little bit easier. But your mileage will vary with these. The key thing is to look at these and look at the averages and look at the percentage change over time, so you know that you're kind of keeping it optimal. You're not going too slow while not going too fast. So I think my recommended sort of weight loss strategy for over time is to try to lose about 0.5% to 1% of total body weight per week. Currently, I'm rocking at about like a 0.5, let's say, percentage per week. I've gone a bit slow since been a bit diet fatigued. I was up higher last month, but things have slowed down a little bit, but that's okay. Definitely try to keep it at a pace where you're not too diet fatigued, because that can get really wearing. Diet breaks can help for like a week where you go back to maintenance, go to 0% weight change per week. It's gonna be hard to keep track of that sort of thing. If you're bulking, I recommend even slower. I recommend you go probably like 0.25% to 0.5%. Unless you're new, you could probably go a little bit faster. More experienced, you got to go slower because that rate of fat gain will be easier for you, most likely, since gaining muscle is so hard. Okay, so I also remember that I would talk about tracking your weight and counting calories versus which is the more optimal strategy. I think an all of the above strategy is the best. We're gonna get rid of the clickbait there and say that you probably want to track your weight and track your calories as accurately as you can, as much as you can tolerate. Don't give up everything if doing everything gets too hard. Just do 75%, track 75%, track as much as you can. But back to the point about tracking weight versus tracking calories. Now, if you don't want to track the inputs, which are the calories, right? And it's a bit of a crapshoot counting those calories. You run into situations where you thought you ate a certain number of calories, but that maybe the manufacturing label wasn't totally accurate, or maybe you were at a restaurant and you misjudged the weight, or any number of things can happen. The amount of calories that people think they're tracking is usually not as accurate as it is. Off by maybe 100, 200 calories. This can happen. And it can add up over time. But if you track the outputs instead, which are much more, kind of, your weight can fluctuate, but you can take an average, right? And that average kind of becomes more true than just the sort of tracking measurement of calories, right? Because with calories, you're always guessing. Well, on some level, there's no guarantee. But with the weight is what it is, right? You can't lie to the scale. The scale can't lie to you unless it's broken, right? Unless it's a broken scale. But if the scale's not broken, the scale cannot lie to you about how much you weigh. You cannot incorrectly track the output in that regard. As long as you are averaging things out over time, you'll eventually get to the point where, you have like, what is, I can tell myself like, oh, I weigh 156.4, right? But like if let's go back to my original, like I can tell myself I weigh 165.60, right? But like that could shoot back up by 3 pounds tomorrow, right? But my true weight, like I consider the 14 or 7-day weights to be the true weights. Maybe 28 is it could also be in the conversation. But these 3 weights I kind of consider to be more closer to what is my true weight, and this is my daily weight. All right, and this true weight, or this average weight, I won't call it true. That's a very loaded word. But this average weight over the time, it kind of can't lie to you, right? Like if you lost 0.44, if you lost 0.5 pounds per week, right? That would just be a guarantee that you were eating at a certain deficit at average over that time. Like in terms of the weight loss, it's not a guess. The laws of thermodynamics cannot lie to you here. Like the number of calories you ate is the average over that 56-day period, right? I'm not going to try to pretend that, on average, I was eating at a deficit of what would lead to 1 pound of fat loss per day. I think that's, if I recall correctly, it's 500 calories per day. I think that's correct. That or it's more. Either way. So yeah, over that 56-day period, I was in a calorie deficit of 500 calories or whatever is the equivalent to 1 pound of fat, 1 pound of body mass loss per week. So I think that that makes a little bit of sense. So if there's any questions about calorie counting or that stuff, or if you guys want a separate video on it, let me know. Okay, thanks for watching this far again. Appreciate it.